Welcome back, you guys. Thanks for joining me again on another one. Today I just wanted to start this off with a little bit of a bike check. Essentially, I've went ahead and got my hand guards there. I've got my fairing set up. I've got some MX style foot pegs that I recently got on. I changed my seat and I got my sissy bar on there. And as well, I got a bag that I rigged up to work on it. I just wanted to go over that. I also do got a fanny pack that I'm running inside the fairing. It just is looped around everything. So far, everything is working really great for me, and I'm enjoying it with the bag on back there and this fanny pack. Believe it or not, I've got a pretty good amount of space to kind of put everything that I need. So it works out pretty well. So today I wanted to go over 5 common mistakes you'll make as a new rider. I think this will help you guys out there for maybe kind of some points to look at and think, well, maybe if I can get some of this stuff down. So because realistically, if you can get a lot of these things that I'm about to cover down, you look substantially like a better rider just from an outside view, and when you're riding the bike you'll probably feel more comfortable too. So let's just go ahead and get into this. And the first thing I want to put on here, and this is one of the most important ones, because no matter what you learn, if you do not practice it, you will not get better at it. And I will say that that is not practicing enough. And I'll stress this a lot, especially for you people out there that maybe didn't start on dirt bikes or have no prior experience with a motorcycle. Put a lot of miles in your neighborhood. Find out what you're probably going to encounter. So things like hills, learn how to navigate them, find them in your neighborhoods and practice on them. I know I put a solid 100 miles in my neighborhood alone before I got out on my first motorcycle. And I'm not gonna lie, I rode dirt bikes as a child, so motorcycles wasn't that hard for me to learn. I was able to teach myself pretty well, and that's how I taught myself. Some things that you could practice on doing is coming to a good stop. You could practice on turning, so your lefts and your rights. Practice coming to a stop on a hill and then proceeding to take off from that dead stop on that hill, going left and or right and straight. Practice all those things right there. You know, you're braking, that's 2. So, and the next thing I'm going to go into is braking. And a lot of people don't realize, well, I say a lot, but I see it quite often, to progressively brake when it comes to using your front brake. Your tire can handle more force putting on it the more you're able to put on it, but you cannot just pull it like it's a on-off switch. You gotta progressively pull it. So, you know, like 10, 20, 40, 60, 80, maybe 100. And what that does, and it allows the rubber to fully plant on the ground and you to dump all your force going down, because you got to think your front is going to load all this too, and it's going to apply that pressure to the rubber on the ground. And as you gradually apply the pressure, the tire will stick more. But if you just grab on it real fast and you don't allow it to gradually press on the tire, it will just break loose, and that's when you end up with people who end up laying their bikes down because of braking. And that's why it's a really important thing to learn how to brake. Also, learning how to use your rear brake when you're braking too. And trail braking, that's a more advanced topic, but I would say learning how to use your rear brake and your front brake at the same time is a smart idea. It helps you come to a more solid stop. And when you're moving slow speeds anyways, using your rear brakes are kind of a good idea because it keeps the bike more stable. The third thing I want to talk about is not getting proper gear. And this one is one that I'm not gonna lie, I was one of these people. I had enough to go get a bike, and I went and got a bike. I didn't have enough for any of the stuff else that came with it. Obviously I had enough for the insurance, but for as far as gear went, I had no gear when I first started riding. I had to get myself a pair of glasses, riding glasses, and that's all I had. And let me tell you this, if I had known what I know today, I probably would have saved a little more money just to go ahead and get me my gear too. And it's hard because a lot of stuff is expensive nowadays. You want a good jacket, it's really expensive. Good gloves, relatively expensive. But when you take into the fact that your life is really on the line when it comes to using a lot of this gear, some of it you kind of can't just count out. I started off without riding with a helmet, and now I ride with a helmet, and I will continue to say that you should probably ride with a helmet. And I look back at some of the riding I did, and I just think to myself, well, I'm glad I didn't get in a wreck, because had I gotten a wreck, I would have really been hurt, and there's nothing I could have done about it. You know, all it takes is one good slam on your head and you're non-existent from people like that right there. Luckily they paid attention. And the fourth thing I want to go over is not learning how to keep track of your gas. If you were one of those people who run out of gas and you never understand when you're going to run out of gas, you should really solve that, because there's only so many times that people are going to see that. I mean, it's one of the first things that we all do on a new bike if you don't have a gauge that tells you how much gas you have. I'm lucky on the Street Bob. It tells me roughly how much gas I have, and even tells me how much gas mileage I might have. But on a lot of bikes, that's just not the case. A lot of bikes, let's be honest, all they got is a light that tells you when your fuel light's low. And if you're not paying attention, you may end up just running out of gas. It's not the most uncommon thing to come by. And normally, I'm just going to say it, when you run into somebody who's ran out of gas like that, they either A, knew they was going to run out of gas, or B, did not know they was going to be running out of gas and did not think that they was ever going to run out of gas, which would tell me they just didn't know at all. And that's typically people with a new bike, or people who are new to riding their bike, because they just simply haven't ran out of gas before. And we've all done it. It's going to happen. But that's why I kind of call it, you know, a rookie mistake, if anything, you know. The fifth thing I want to talk about is knowing how to park your bike. And this is kind of an interesting one, because this right here could change depending on the style of bike and how heavy your bike is. If you have a dresser, one of those big old baggers, you got the speakers, you got everything loaded to the bone, you've got a 900-pound bike for say, you know, you do have to know how to park that bike. And you're gonna look like a noob if you don't know how to park your bike, because if you end up parking your bike and it's too heavy for you to move around very easily, if you park your bike facing like a car on maybe like an incline that you're facing downwards on, and you can't back your bike out of that parking spot, people are going to be like, oh wow. You know, a lot of the times it is smart to park your bike in reverse essentially, and just back your bike up into the spot. That way you don't have to worry about having enough room on your left and your right. It's really easy to do, especially if you're on one of these Harleys or one of the bigger cruiser bikes. You know, these aren't necessarily the lightest of bikes. It's not a dirt bike, I guess. And on a dirt bike, you could get away with stuff like that. If you have like one of those Enduros or Dual Sports, you know, it might not matter how you park the bike, because the bike maybe only weighs 300 pounds. If you're riding a smaller sport bike, it may only weigh 300 pounds. But when you get a 600-pound bike, and you're fighting against gravity, you'll be singing a different tune, and it really shows. You know, and so that's one thing, because I have heard of people needing help getting out of parking spots with their bike because they didn't pay attention and they didn't realize that when they parked their bike on that incline, that they were going to have to be pushing their 600-pound motorcycle up a hill. And if you're just not built like that, you're not going to move that piece of metal. It's really heavy bikes. And that's why I say it really does just matter on the type of bike you have. If you have a lighter bike, this one won't necessarily be as heavy of something that you'll have to think about. But if you've got even a mildly heavy bike, I would suggest learning how to park your motorcycle. And by that I mean learning how to get it in there in a way where you can back it up. You could do it a lot of different ways. You know, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat out there, as they say. But just find you one that you're comfortable with. Me personally, I kind of just roll up to it, turn until I'm straight and lined with it, stop, I throw my bike in neutral, and then I just back on up and then park the bike. I'd also say, you know, here's another good little tip: don't park your motorcycle all the way back into the parking spot. It may seem like a thing you want to do because you're like, I don't want nobody to hit my bike, right? But you're actually kind of opening yourself up to more of a chance of being hit by another car, because what's going to happen is you're going to have the bike backed in there, and there's going to be another car, because they're bigger than you. It's going to basically hide your bike, and somebody's going to try to whip in that parking spot thinking that the spot's empty, because the first 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet of it is, there's nothing there because your bike's backed all the way up. And so they don't think there's a car there or a motorcycle there or anything there, and they're gonna whip in that motherfucker. And if they're stupid, they might just whip in there and hit your bike too. So I personally park my bike at the very front of it. I don't exceed the line so that you're not sticking out or anything, but I park right at the end of it, so that way I know for a fact my bike will be seen. Nobody's going to think that this parking spot's empty, and that way I don't have to worry about my bike. And you know, a good little tip about it, pro tip: you can see your bike if you're nearby it like that. It kind of stands out. You'll see the front of it, and you can know your bike's there. If you're worried about your bike being stolen, it's a little bit of peace of mind. But thanks for coming back in with another one with me, you guys. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. As always, hit that bell button if you want to see all of my content. Thanks for coming back for another one, you guys.